Good morning, dear students. Today I am going to teach you the second chapter of Snapshot, that is The Address by MARGA MINCO. It's a very interesting story. That is a moving short story of MARGA MINCO. During World War II, German invades Holland. A woman with her daughter is the author of the story, has home. The mother dies. Long after the war, the daughter comes back to her own town. She meets the woman with whom her mother had left all her belongings. The woman even refuses to recognize her, nor does she show any intention of returning the things she has in her possession. She gives up the idea of getting them back again. She decides to leave all of them behind. She resolves to forget the address where those belongings lie unceremoniously in unpleasant surrounding. So basically, this story address depicts the complex human emotion of intimacy, trust, hope, and betrayal. It speaks of the greed and vices that afflict a human being and how it makes them to do horrible things like breaking other people's hope, lying, stealing, cheating, etc. So let's begin with the now just see the characters. Marga Minko, the narrator. Mrs. S, the narrator's mother, she was a simpleton who could not see the manipulating and fraudulent nature of Mrs. Darling, one of her acquaintance. Mrs. Darling, a very wicked, shrewd woman, she visited the narrator's mother saying that she was her classmate years ago, but her intentions were not the same. Now let's begin with the summary. The story begins with the narrator, that is the author of the story, coming back to her country after the war to see a woman named Mrs. Darling. The narrator tells the lady that she is the daughter of Mrs. S, that means the narrator's mother, and she has come to take her mother's belongings. So the story begins on this note that a girl after the war visiting to one of the acquaintance of her mother who is having her mother's possession. She went to take those things from her. She is surprised to see the narrator and hides herself behind the door, denying knowing anybody by the name of Mrs. S. The narrator, for a moment, believes that she has come to a wrong address, but when she notices the lady wearing her mother's cardigan, she becomes sure that she has come to the right place. Why the lady is surprised? Because she thought that everybody in the war must have died. She was not expecting that the daughter or anybody from the war must be alive. So when she saw the daughter on her door, she refused to recognize her. She refused to recognize that she is Mrs. S. daughter, though she very well knew her. So for a moment, the narrator thought that she might have come on the wrong address, but when she noticed that the lady was wearing her mother's cardigan, she was sure that she has come to the right. The lady closes the door on the narrator. The narrator leaves to go to back to the railway station. On her way back, she remembers her past. In the past, when the narrator had come home, she had found some things missing. On asking, her mother had told her that Mrs. Darling, an acquaintance of hers, was kind enough to take their valuable things with her. So while she was going back to the railway station, she went down the memory lane and then she remembered that when she came back from the hostel, she noticed that some of the things of the house were missing. When she asked her mother about it, her mother told her that since the war is going to happen, yeah, it was about to happen. So one of her acquaintance, she has taken all those precious or valuable things and she said she will keep it very safely, and once the war will get over, she can take those things from her. So she remembered those things. She would keep them safely in her house so that during the war, if they had to leave the country, their valuables would be safely kept with her. The narrator got a glimpse of Mrs. Darling while she was moving out of her house with a heavy suitcase, and that her mother had told her Mrs. Darling's address, 46 Marconi Street. So once Mrs. Darling, she came to the narrator's house to take the valuables. So while she was about to leave with the valuables, narrator's mother introduced the girl to Mrs. Darling, and that time she just had a glimpse of her because Mrs. Darling was least interested in talking because she was in a hurry to move out of the house with the valuables. And on inquiring, her mother told that Mrs. Darling doesn't live very far away. Her address is 46 Marconi Street, and asked her to remember this address. As she continued to walk back to the train station, she saw old streets that were burnt up and old memories ran through her bodies. So she was walking through the same street where she used to live, and then she saw the destruction caused by the war. But now, since the war is over, the things were becoming normal. She decided to make one more try and went back again to Mrs. Darling's house. Since her first attempt failed, she again thought of giving it. Mrs. Darling was having her mother's position, so she really wanted them back. Growing frustrated at her last visit, the narrator decides to go back to the same address for her mother's belongings. She was determined and approached the door. But this time a new face opened the door. It was Mrs. Darling's daughter. So, since that was the only memories left, her mother was no more, and that belongings, that valuables were the only memories of her mother. So she very strongly she wanted them back. So she planned to give a second try. So she now again she went to that address, but this time instead of Mrs. Darling, her daughter opened the door. When they were crossing the passage, the protagonist noticed the Hanukkah candle stand that they had never used because it had been unmanageable. To a room, so while crossing the passage, she saw a Hanukkah candles, and it was of silver, and it was so heavy that they hardly used it. So first thing she saw of her mother belonging was Hanukkah candle. When she reached the living room, she was horrified as she saw all her mother's things that were arranged in a tasteless manner. The things which were very valuable for them, and they were kept in a very nice way in her place, at her place. Now they were carelessly kept. So she was really shocked to see that. The furniture was ugly and the room had a muggy smell, and it made her disinterested and she wanted to leave the place. When she saw that the way the things were kept in a careless manner, she really felt really bad. She does not want to stay there for a second. She wants to leave it immediately because now those things have lost the value. Mrs. Darling's daughter offered her a cup of tea, and the protagonist noticed the old tablecloth that had a burn mark on it. When the girl was showing her the silver fork and spoons that actually belonged to the narrator, she jumped up and walked out of the house because Mrs. Darling's daughter doesn't have any idea that the things which she is showing to the girl actually belongs to the girl. When the narrator asked her that from where her mother has got those things, so she told her she has got in an auction. The things looked the same, but they were in a different place, lifeless and strange. Though all the things were the same, but now they have lost their value. First of all, why they have lost all, her mother is not there. She is no more with her. Secondly, the things have lost the touch of her mother. So now those things doesn't value. They are the materialistic things, and now those things don't value her at all. They lack the life they had before. They lack the touch of her mother or the smell of their house. They were a reminder of what the narrator had actually lost and that it could never be recovered. Then she realized what she has lost. She has lost her mother, and now those belongings have no value for her. The narrator was soon overwhelmed by the flushing memories and decided to leave the house and the possessions. Now, no more she wants those things. First of all, why she doesn't want, first of all, her mother is not alive. So she don't want to keep those things again in the house. Secondly, they have lost the value in the sense because they doesn't have that touch and that smell of her mother. Then, thirdly, because she lives in a small rented room and those things will not find any place there in her room. Without giving any explanation to her host, she scampered from the house, which became hauntingly difficult for her to stay in. See, when she entered the room, she saw the things which she knew very well, but now they appeared to her as strange things. Why? Because the way they were kept in their house so decoratively, so nicely. Her mother used to keep those things. In one incident, she has went while thinking about this. She even said that she was not knowing that those precious things were of silver. Those valuables they were kept. She was not knowing. Once when her mother asked her to clean those silver spoons and all that, then she came to know that they were of silver. And when she saw the way they were kept in the house, she was really, really disheartened to see those things. She was disappointed, and now no more she wants those things in her house. She made a commitment to never return to the place and those forgotten things. In the end, she decides to forget the address and all the history that went with it. For her, it was a burden. She was relieved to get mind and heart. So now, after that, she decided to forget the address. She decided to forget those belongings. Since those were the materialistic things, so it was really easy for the narrator to forget those things than the other memories. So now she don't want to remember that address. She don't want to remember the history behind it. She wants to forget everything and she wants to start a new beginning. So from the story, it is easily you can make out what the war has brought, how the humans have changed, how her old acquaintance of her mother has betrayed her mother as well as the child. So this is all the story. This is all the story. And what message you get from this story or what you have learned from this story, please write down in your notebook. Till then, have a great day. Bye bye.